your windows. Lock your doors. Keep your loved ones near. Time is running out. It's here for fear.
Hi, welcome to Ear for Fear. I'm Rick, and this is the podcast that talks about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. Today we got one of our regular guests, Sleepy D.
Yep.
Sleepy D in the place to be.
How's it going?
Darren Lindsay, joined by a special guest, Darren's daughter and my goddaughter, Shaylee Lindsay.
Sup?
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We are going to be talking about 1973's Exorcist. Before we dive into this thing, let's do a real super quick synopsis. A 12-year-old girl is possessed by a mysterious entity. After numerous failed attempts by doctors to help her daughter, her mother seeks the help of two priests to save her.
That's much too vulgar display of power, Karis. What an excellent day for an exorcism.
All right, so 1973's The Exorcist.
Oh, Exorcist.
I've said this several times. I'm gonna say it again. This is my all-time favorite horror movie. I know if you asked probably the director and the writer and some of the actors, they'd go, "Well, this isn't a horror movie." Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a horror. I
Right?
mean, but before we start, again, thanks for having us on. Thanks
Yep.
for having my daughter.
Yes.
It's really awesome. Every parent secretly wants to have at least one of their kids sort of have some common interests.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have two kids. This is the kid that most closely follows
Yep.
the stuff that I'm
Definitely.
into.
She is a fan of horror, which is a good thing. We to the listeners, if they listen to our previous episode on Phantasm, we mentioned Shaylee, and we thought this was an ideal episode to bring her in because we want a different perspective on this younger generation.
Well, if you remember,
No.
I launched into a little
I
bit of
do.
a story about
Mhm.
when I introduced her
Yeah.
to it and how she found it to be hysterical.
Yeah, and
Like,
she should be ashamed of herself right now. If I could put you on restriction, I would. I don't think it'll fly with your mom and dad, but that's it's okay. We're gonna jump into that. But yeah, man. I mean, it just this is to me. I mean, I love this movie. It kind of. I'm not gonna say it holds like a special place in my heart, but I don't ever get tired of this thing, and it's such a from start to finish, it's just a brilliant movie. Even if you want to say it's not a horror movie, which I think it is. I mean, because what is a horror movie? It's something horrific, right?
yeah,
What happened to Regan throughout this,
yeah.
throughout this movie is horrific. So
One thing that I think that we might want to mention, obviously, beside the spoiler aspect of this,
yeah.
it is impossible to talk about The Exorcist without diving into some religious context. So
True.
if listeners are sensitive to religious conversation,
Yeah.
You know,
It's true.
you just can't talk about it without.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'll be honest with you, two things I know very little about: politics and religion. I don't know a lot about it. But
Well, being
this is seeped in religious. I mean, it's everywhere.
Well, being a recovering Catholic, I spent 9 years of my life from elementary school to
That's
freshman
still
year.
hard to believe.
Yeah, I was an altar boy too.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Oh, I had to be. I mean, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've known you nearly 30 years, and I just don't see you as that.
Because it never was me. Like even growing up, that was something that was thrust upon me.
Yeah, I was. I had. My parents never try to force religion on me. I do remember. I do remember a situation where my father took me. This was when I was young, to a baptism, and that freaked me out.
Yeah.
The idea of people being like dunked in water and all these dude, it's just odd to me. Again, I'm not putting anything down, whatever people believe. To me, it's just, it didn't feel right. It was uncomfortable.
It doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't resonate with you. And, and so my wife and I, we made it a point to introduce a lot of different, modalities, if you will, to our kids. And so you'll hear, Shaylee, you can chime in on this one. She's got a lot of interesting takes on, how she perceives religion. And that was important to us to keep that an open-ended book.
Sure. Yeah.
We want them to find their own path. I'm not interested in forcing something down their throat that doesn't fit with them.
I've always been that way with the kids. With the kids, whenever, if they wanted to ever do that, they could. Yep. They just didn't really show much of an interest. Mm-hmm. Andrea shows more of an interest for it. And I told her she can definitely go. I'm not going with you. Yeah. But you can definitely go. Yep. I want her to figure out stuff on her own, you know, so before we dive into this and really kind of dissect this Exorcist, we usually on the podcast here, when we have a new guest, Darren, you're a veteran now, and Morris has been on several times. Shayla, you're new. So we just ask 5 questions, and they're usually, I try to cater them towards who you are. This one was a little difficult because you're younger. Yeah. And you've been watching horror movies, television shows for how long now?
Maybe 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So she's still new to it, but it doesn't take away from, I think her knowledge of it, because I know several times I've been over your house and we have just kind of, like I said, we geek out on horror movies and stuff and we talk about it. So, right. So before we jump into Exorcism, I'm just going to ask you questions, answer them honestly. And if it doesn't make sense, just let me know and I'll rephrase it. First question is this, what was the first horror movie you remember seeing?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. You introduced her to that.
I certainly did introduce her to that.
That's a gnarly one to like.
Yes, it is.
It's not like let me gradually introduce horror to you. Let me give you this one.
Shaylee, what was the scene that absolutely freaked you out?
So it was the scene where she was getting dragged up the wall.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, yeah, that one's
the first time I watched it. I stopped there because I could not take it. And then I don't know how long afterwards, but I eventually came back and was like, "Hey, we should finish this."
It was at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Did it mess you up?
Looking back, no, but probably since I was younger, I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah, she wasn't ready for that one.
She has this weird eye twitch now.
Oh, because she sees like she has these nightmares of, I don't know, man, long arms in an alleyway, and you just scarred her for life.
Yeah, totally.
That is one that's I could not tell you the first movie I would have introduced to any of the kids horror wise. I just don't know. I probably did something similar and probably started off with a hardcore one. Yeah. Because Elm Street is, it's definitely a classic, and the scene she's talking about, the Johnny Depp scene
hardcore
in the bedroom with there's some stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to really dislike anything scary. Like my dad used to watch The Walking Dead and I was terrified of that. I never wanted to even see And I don't know what came upon me, but I was just like, hey, let's watch a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we came back to it the second time, that was just like I was hooked like that.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Were you immediately hooked, or did it take a little time for you to kind of,
I was hooked. I mean, then I started watching all these, different movies ranging from slashers to just like, psychological to like ghost films, all that. I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, see, that's good though. Cause some people, I think they just over time, they kind of just gradually,
Yeah.
and it could be just an age thing. Some people aren't into it when they're younger. And then all of a sudden, who knows, something happened at 20 or 30 and they're like, oh yeah, I'm loving it.
See, I have a theory. She's very much, we have a personality overlap. There's some differences, but we're close enough in birth phase.
Oh yeah.
That we have a personality overlap a bit.
Yeah.
And what I think, because it's what happens with me, if there's a thing I'm uncomfortable with, I push forward into it. I will force myself to push forward into it, because I don't want to come out of the end of it feeling paralyzed because I can't do that thing or it's scary to me. Like I'm going to push into it, and perhaps maybe there's a little bit of that.
Could be.
I don't know, Shaylee, you have to.
I don't really think I think about that like consciously.
I probably overanalyze it.
I don't know.
You overanalyze stuff?
Whatever.
No way. No way.
I'm gonna jump across this table.
I know. That's funny. Let's second question. Worst horror movie you ever watched, either by yourself or your dad made you watch it.
What do you mean by worst?
Worst, like one you maybe started and you just had to turn it off because it was complete crap, or you watched it and afterwards you went, God, why did I waste an hour and a half of my life with this thing?
Oh,
anything you can think of offhand?
I don't know offhand. I'd really have to think about that, because a lot of the horror movies, if not all of them that I've watched, I've ended up really liking.
You've liked? Well, see, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
She hasn't watched enough, because
I have not.
There's plenty of crappy ones out there. Let me tell you.
Let me think. Dead Alive.
Whatever. Don't even care.
But I mean, there were ones that I had to shut off because they were just too much to handle.
Good. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of my questions. Was there a movie that you started watching but turned it off because it was just too scary for you?
Yes. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The original.
I think it was the remake.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, they've done it a million times.
Yeah.
Was that the one? I'm trying to think who's in that. And I can't remember what year it came out. Somewhere in the 2000s.
Yeah.
But you never introduced her to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No,
to me, that's not
I don't think I did.
And I know I'm probably going to upset a lot of horror fans if they're listening. Not a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I respect it's a classic and its place in the horror genre. I don't like it.
To be honest with you, when she told me that she watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in my head, she watched the original.
Yeah.
I didn't. I never even clued in that she actually watched the remake. So it never occurred to me to put it on and have her.
I watched the remake because I didn't, I don't have Apple TV and I can't just rent movies.
You're limited on what you can watch. Yes.
So they put one of the remakes on Netflix and I was like, I want to watch a scary movie. So I went to Netflix and I was like, why not watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And I couldn't sit through all of it in one sitting. I ended up going back to it and finishing it.
Okay.
But that not a fan.
Yeah, me neither. I agree with you. I'm just that particular franchise has never done anything for me.
Even the original.
Really? I don't know. That's what I was referring to earlier. I'm not a fan. It's I met the guy who played Leatherface, Gunnar Hansen. Met him. Oh gosh, I think it was somewhere in the 90s. Very nice gentleman. I had an opportunity to get an autograph, and I just passed. I mean, I wasn't trying to be rude. I am
not going to permeate my wall of autographs with this.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan. I know there are a ton of fans out there that love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm just not one of them. I don't own it. I've seen it. I've seen the remake. I think they've done a couple other remakes. They've done sequels. I've seen all of them. Just, again, not a fan of it. Just don't. I could just take it or leave it. The original has and I think I've mentioned this before in the podcast, it has a very snuff kind
Yeah.
of feel
Oh,
to
yeah.
it. It doesn't. It's like a snuff film or something, and I don't enjoy that.
I don't either per se. I mean that one's it has that vibe. It's not quite. I mean, like I can sit through it. Like other those kinds of snuff films, they gross me out. Especially when they're super steeped in that vibe.
Yeah.
It's gross to
Yeah.
me. That Texas Chainsaw, the original, it skirts it for me. I can sit through it. It's
It
just not my
was-
go-to.
I can.
It's
I
not
can.
something
For
I
me, the reason I stopped watching it is like obviously the vibe that it was giving me. But it was also, it's not like I've seen a lot of gory stuff, and for some reason this one just pushed me over the edge. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Ended up stop watching it when it was in the remake. So she had run underneath like some table thing that the guy was strapped to because
Yeah.
he started coming down the stairs.
Yep.
And he literally took this chainsaw and just went
Yep.
straight through his
Mhm.
stomach. And that's when I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I just as I've gotten older, I think I just am not so much into the
your tolerance for that
yeah,
kind of gratuitous.
I don't like. I think I mentioned Hostel, and Saw is fine, the original Saw, and then they just kind of got a little
Yeah.
But I think killing people or torturing people and all just for the I don't know, for the sure enjoyment out of it. I don't know. It takes something away from from me
Yeah.
at least. There's certain genres, subgenres that I just gravitate more towards,
Yeah.
and I like those, and I find more enjoyment. It doesn't mean I don't like these other movies. I love slashers. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the difference though between a slasher and let's just say a Halloween or a Friday the 13th, has a far different feel than Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
Definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I didn't even think you had seen that before,
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so let's see here. What else we got there? Is there perfect. Is there a specific subgenre that you like more than another? An example would be zombies, vampires, stuff like that. I know I don't know if you still are, but I know you're a fan of The Walking Dead. Do you like, oh man, I got to see me a zombie movie, or I got to see me a this or a that,
It's weird. With the zombie movies, for some reason, Walking Dead is the only one that really, I just loved watching it. I stopped watching it, but I'm actually rewatching it right now.
Oh, okay.
I think the most of the movies that I would gravitate more towards are the paranormal ones,
Okay. Yeah.
because they make me think more than just
Mhm.
like a guy killing people.
Yep.
That is my daughter.
Yep.
Right
It is.
there.
It is
Yep.
for sure.
I like the, leaving a movie after you watch it and thinking like, having to really think
Mhm.
about it and having to take your time to process everything.
Yep. Yep.
So, I gravitate more towards those, more paranormal ones because I like them. They just, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
No, you explained it well.
Which is and you did, and which is perfect because of The Exorcist. I mean,
Because there's a psychology to
there
those.
there is.
And
Yeah.
I mean, a slasher is great, but the slasher, it's a murderous bastard running around slashing up people. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot to
Think about
there's-
in there.
yeah.
There really isn't, and I think it depends on the mood you're in. What am I feeling today? Hey, you know what I'm feeling? I don't want to think a lot. Let me pop it a slasher because
Yeah.
it's the truth.
It's not like I don't
You know?
like slashers.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if I'm just like on, the couch going through TV, just if I see like Friday the 13th or something like that, I will watch it.
I do
'cause,
the same thing, and they play them all the time. And it's these days it always seems to be part 3, 4, and 5, and I've seen them a million times, and I just usually just put them on, and then I'm on my phone and I'm
God.
looking at stuff.
Could be
and-
worse. Could be like Jason X.
Yeah, Jason X isn't that bad. I know people crap on that one. I would say Jason Goes to Hell is one of the worst movies I've ever
What?
seen, and I saw that in the theater.
You liked it when he took Manhattan?
Manhattan I can tolerate because it has a more of a cheesy feel to it.
Yeah.
Jason Goes to Hell was complete garbage. What they did is they took like 800 different horror movies and let's do this and let's do that, and none of it made any sense, and it was complete trash.
Yeah.
Jason X I can Jason X I can deal with, man. Jason in space, I'm cool with that. You know?
they had that really cool
The simulation
kill,
scene.
the kill when he dunked her face in.
Oh yeah, like some sort of I don't know what the hell that was,
like
but
liquid nitrogen.
Yeah,
or something.
dude. You know, my favorite scene is when there's a simulation of what it would look like at, like, say, Camp Crystal Lake, and it had two girls and they were jumping around and giggling, and it was just a simulation just so they could get. Dude, I thought it was brilliant, man. I loved it. The movie's cool. I mean, you know, so yeah. I mean, it just depends on what I'm in the mood for. You know, and so
like if I'm just scrolling through TV and you know I'll see like one of the slasher films, I'll watch it. But if my dad like sits me down and is like, "Hey, you want to watch a horror movie?" and he lets me like choose something, I'll usually go for more of ones that will make me think.
Okay.
But if he wanted to introduce me to a slasher, I'd be down to watch it.
Yeah.
Like if he wanted to sit down and watch a slasher, I'd watch it.
Like we watched all of the Conjuring stuff and couldn't get enough of that. We were all over that.
It was kind of a slasher, but like not really. I don't know what category I'd put it in. Was the Sinister. I like the first one.
Yeah.
A lot.
Second one is, yes, the first one is really good. And I would say it's kind of similar to the lines of Insidious and Conjuring. That's a great movie with Ethan Hawke. Yeah. The second one, not so much.
Yeah.
It kind of seemed to lose
the second one was just...
That's a good movie. I like that movie a lot. You know? There's a lot of those types of movies these days. Some of them are done well, some not so much. You know, I could say, you know, a lot of the movies in that, like, say, Conjuring universe, you know, I'm not gonna say necessarily Insidious, but the Annabelles and the Nun and stuff like that, you know. And I think they're supposedly going to be doing a few other movies, but of course with this pandemic, they, you know, halted everything. Yeah. I think Conjuring 3 is supposed to come out next year.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah. So Conjuring 2, I didn't like it as much as the first one. The first one just scared me more. The second one was whatever. It was cool. I liked it, but not as scary.
Yeah.
But a last question, and then we can jump into The Exorcist. Personally, music for me sets the tone in a horror movie. Is there some sort of element for you that you see or hear that you may say to yourself, yeah, this is going to be a good movie? You know, anything that jumps out at you?
I would say the music.
Yeah.
One of my favorite horror movies, if not my actual favorite one, The Shining.
Oh,
that one, when I was first introduced to that one, it was near the start.
Oh,
and that music, it was just like, it gave me anxiety. I was like stressed about like everything. So I was telling my dad on the couch, I was like, this music is stressing me out.
She did.
It makes you unsettled.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap, it already just started. And
plus
it's
they
like
have it's that aerial cam where they're like,
as they're going up the mountain. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that one is my all-time favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
I love that horror movie so much.
That's a good one to be a favorite, man. I can't argue that. Yeah. You know, I can't. That's a classic.
I did my job correctly.
Yeah, that's a classic, man. Yeah. That's such a good movie. That's one we have to do down the road.
I'm going to need to get a poster for my room. I had one before, but it came all bent.
Which poster? Was it the one of Jack coming through the door?
Yeah. And it said, "Here's Johnny" down at the bottom.
Yeah.
I got that one, and we got it. We were hanging up in my room, and it was just all folded and, bent.
Yeah. Who folds a poster and then sends it to you?
I recently had that done earlier this year when I was waiting for I'm not going to give them the name because then I feel like I'm
trashing on them.
No, I'll trash on them, but I'm not going to give their name because
you feel like it's advertising.
Yeah,
for
I don't
them?
want it. It was a particular horror documentary. I'm sure it's fairly recent, so people might be able to fill in the blanks, but they half-assed everything. They sent me a shirt. I ordered an extra large. Yeah, I'm a little chubby around the stomach. You know,
it's all them burritos,
it's all those super burritos I'm eating. It fit like a medium. The poster they sent me was literally like you're talking about. It was folded up. Who the hell does that?
I know.
I actually blasted them. I emailed them back and I said, you need to send me a new poster. And they did. And it's sitting up there in the theater room.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, who does that crap? You know? But I'm not going to. Yeah.
What happened when we got the poster is the delivery dude wasn't really being careful with it because when we actually got it, like the cardboard tube was bent.
It was, yeah,
Oh.
in their defense, it was in a tube.
It was in a tube?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
you
okay.
refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
we ended
the
up
tube
just-
was
The
bent.
tube
We
was
ended up-
flattened.
We got a Nightmare on Elm Street one, and
Oh,
I still
okay.
have that one.
Oh,
but
cool.
I want
Yeah.
a shining poster
She
because
gotta get her a shining one.
I really like
Although
that
that Nightmare on
movie.
Elm Street poster is pretty
It's
good.
pretty sick.
Which one is it? Is it the original poster or is it a
it
different?
shows, it's like blue cast, and
Okay.
it shows
It's,
the house
Okay.
or a house.
I think it's the house.
Is it the house?
Yeah.
And his hand is with the glove is coming over.
I've seen
it.
this poster. Yes.
And there's I forget her name.
Oh,
Is it Nancy?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like right down at the bottom,
Yeah.
it like has like Nightmare on Elm Street and
Mhm.
it's all yellow and it's really cool. I like that poster.
Oh, I have one upstairs. I don't know if you saw it when you were checking up, but it's hanging really high up. And I found it online by this artist, and I can't remember his name, but oh
Mhm.
my God, I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it, and I had to have it. And it's really cool because it has like his arms going all these different directions, and it's just, oh man, I am a huge fan of any these designers that they grab a movie and they do an alternate version of it, and
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's simple, if it's I don't care, it's just anything, man. I'm
Yeah.
a sucker for that stuff. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
you know.
definitely need to get more of the horror movie posters. A lot of my posters are music, like bands.
There's nothing wrong with that too.
Yeah, but I don't have a lot of
Real estate.
You don't have a lot of real estate for the posters.
Yeah.
What about
yeah,
your ceiling?
and I also don't have a lot
What about
of
the ceiling? Is that okay, Dad?
I mean, I would deal with it. It's not my favorite idea. It kind of takes me back to my 70s upbringing.
Okay, well,
But yeah, I don't have a lot of horror movie posters. I have Hellraiser,
Oh yeah, that's right.
Nightmare on Elm Street, and Sleepaway Camp.
Oh yes, because we got to tell people we went to the SinisterCon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not this year because they all got canceled, unfortunately. But it was
Couple years ago?
last year. It was 2019, I think, and I think it
Okay.
was around. I think it was the June or July one.
Yeah.
And you got to meet Felissa Rose
Yeah.
from Sleepaway Camp, and
She is so nice,
She
dude.
is
She is
so
so
nice.
nice.
I follow her on Instagram. She is awesome.
Yeah.
She is great. And then you met oh God, I forget her name from
Ashley Lawrence?
Yeah, from Hellraiser.
Yeah,
in
she
part
was
one and
also
two.
She's
really
also
nice.
very nice.
Yeah,
She
I didn't meet
took
her.
the time.
I think when you guys met her, I was somewhere else.
Yeah, I think you were in line.
Was I in
for-
line? I was probably in line to meet somebody.
I remember she asked us, like, what do you think of the effects on Hellraiser? Does it hold up in your opinion? And I have the heart to tell you, I don't really
Yeah.
think they do hold up. I think that the effects are very glaringly bad now. At
Yes.
the time, they were decent.
Yeah.
They were. I actually saw Hellraiser in the theater. I liked it. I don't. It's funny. The movie itself to me doesn't hold up.
Yeah,
It's
very.
It has it, and I think it's and again I'm probably wrong, but I think it was shot somewhere in Europe, so it has like this very dreary, like feel to it, like almost an overcast feel, and it feels almost cheap.
But
to
this
me.
weird erogenous, and
Oh, there's a lot of that.
yeah, in
there's a
there
lot of
that
stuff in
is
yeah.
a little dated and a little.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge, like I said, I liked it when it came out. I owned it at one point. I think I got rid of it. To me, I don't know, it just doesn't hold up. I love the Cenobites. The creatures themselves are awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
I love them. I was lucky enough to meet Clive Barker, who actually wrote, all of that, and met
Mhm.
him, God, in the late 80s at Tower Records. Remember
Oh,
Tower
yeah.
Records, Darren?
Yeah, I do.
I miss Tower Records.
God,
I miss record stores in general.
Shaylee, you would have loved Tower Records.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, she would have. I don't. It's just a bummer. Like,
It really
are
is.
any record stores open
It used to
anymore?
be the thing you go to,
All the dimples
and
are
it was
closed.
so awesome to go there.
Oh, it's awesome,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, just yeah. If you
The
ever,
last record store I went to was in San Francisco. So,
oh, did you go to like a vinyl store?
yeah.
See, those are cool.
Yeah, she's into vinyl.
Yeah,
I love vinyl.
yeah. See, so she's picked up. She's definitely your daughter.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and she loves the best band in the world, Pink Floyd.
oh, you mean the
I
Doors?
love
I'm
Pink
sorry.
Floyd.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I am a huge Doors fan, but yes, Pink Floyd is pretty cool. That's pretty cool that she's got into it, though. She knows way more about Pink Floyd than I do.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, that was the 5 questions. That wasn't so bad.
No, definitely
That
not.
wasn't that hard, huh?
Sweated
know?
it too much.
Yeah, you did. we told her ahead of time there was going to be questions, but we didn't tell her what, and so she
was all,
started freaking
"What?
out.
A test?
Yeah, I know, right? So, all right, man. Exorcist.
Yeah.
Let's jump into this movie. Darren, I know you enjoy this movie.
Absolutely. Well, when we did the Phantasm episode, I had told you my story about when my mom
You
went to
did.
go and see it, and that whole story about the St. Christopher medal, blessing it, the priest
Oh,
blessing
yeah.
it, and she tried to put it on me, and I flipped the hell out. Well, so I was just talking to my mom the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I brought up that we were going to be doing this podcast with you,
Yeah.
and she told me an extra thing
Oh no.
about that story.
Oh, okay.
And
Share.
It cracked me up, dude.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
So apparently afterwards, because my dad refused, she wanted to leave. I mean, dude, the first moment things went sideways, she was out. She wanted
Yeah.
to go. My dad was all, hell no. We got popcorn. I got a $12 soda.
Oh, I know. I don't think it was $12
No, I know,
then.
I'm exaggerating, but you know what I
But
mean.
it was the equivalent of
equivalent of $12
$15,
back in
$20, yeah.
1973. So I
Yeah.
think that's when they saw it in
Yeah.
the theaters. And he's like, and I paid all the, we are sitting here and you are watching that. And so they got home and she went to go take a bath. And so
Oh,
she's
no.
like in the bathtub, and he all of a sudden shuts the light off and slams the door and starts making a bunch of like noises.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is Bob?
Bob. Yeah,
Bob, what the hell are you doing?
It's amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, seriously, dude.
Oh.
She like literally like
She probably crapped
she
the
totally like
bathtub.
she did.
She had a little floater in the
Yeah.
bathtub.
Oh, that Tootsie Roll. What's going on?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, dude.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is-
It just cracked me up.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, too, I know when Exorcist was released, they didn't release it to a lot of theaters because they didn't think they had a hit on their hands.
Right.
All the studio execs were like, oh God, I think we
Yeah.
just shelve this thing.
Yeah.
And so then it took a little bit, it blew up, and they kept adding screens. And
Well,
so I'm just curious if, your dad, they could have waited in line for hours, and he's like, no, you're watching this damn movie.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the damn director, I mean, he was coming from making
like-
comedies, and
Yeah.
I think even he
Yeah.
didn't really think that there was going to be
Yeah.
anything
William
to this.
Friedkin. I think he
Mhm.
also did documentaries, didn't he? I thought I
think
had
so.
heard
he was
that.
primarily comedic. He did comedies,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
Shaylee, if you want to chime in on
Oh no. What?
I could see him making. I laughed. Some of the
I want-
parts during The Exorcist, I was
wanna
like,
beat her.
haha.
I'm gonna beat her right now. I got something I can throw at her.
Rick. She
So
absolutely laughed.
what
out
did you
loud.
What did you laugh at? So tell me.
More of it was when she was like, cursing her mom out, stabbing her crotch.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
Her weird, he flipping up and down, back and forth on the bed.
Really? You found that funny?
I thought that was
Shit.
funny.
Oh
She did.
man. So let me ask you this, okay? Because this is the $1 million question. Why do you think that is, Shaylee? Because your dad and I are very close in age, and this movie scares us. Why do you think it doesn't scare you? Do you just think it's because you have so much access to stuff via the phone and internet, and you can watch whatever you want whenever you want? We didn't grow up with that. I mean, we saw a movie and that was about it. Unless we witnessed something horrific. But why do you think that is?
Yeah, for its time, I definitely think that was a very scary movie, for its time. But, younger generations, we have a lot more access to, more movies. More movies are coming out, technology's advancing. So I feel like a lot of it's just we've seen other things that we would classify as more scary.
Like, what would you? It's interesting to me because this doesn't surprise me. It surprises me that you laughed at it. It doesn't surprise me that maybe she didn't find it all scary or scary at all. And I think it's because she can jump on her phone right now as we're talking and watch a video
Well,
who knows
see,
what,
my opinion on this is that the movie is a product of its time. And so what I mean by that is this in the 70s, um, you know, religion and going to church and all of that, it was something that more, I'm not saying that people don't do it now, but there was more to it. I think that the
Mhm.
idea of religion was, had more of a prominent place in people's lives then than
Yeah.
maybe now.
Oh, no, I don't think there's a maybe. I
Okay.
think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And certainly in Catholicism,
Yeah.
and so I think, what you have and why, you and I, generations, that we grew up in, really scares us is because it touches on a subject matter that we were always raised to believe that, God's going to protect, and that we're under God's protection. There is no way that something's going to happen, because I believe in God. So there,
Yeah.
and so the idea of an any town girl, 12-year-old girl, who has no rightful business getting possessed, can get
Yeah.
possessed, then we're all vulnerable. And I think
True.
that this is just something lost today.
Yeah.
I just don't think
Yeah.
kids in Shaylee's generation, it doesn't have the same impact it did, because religion maybe doesn't necessarily have the same impact it did
Mhm.
back in the
Yeah.
70s.
But I think couldn't we all agree, when Reagan, when Reagan is basically possessed by this demon, we could argue that it was her lack of faith, right? And that's very strong, and it's a very strong belief in religion is your faith. That's
Yeah.
really what it boils down to, right?
For sure.
And her lack of faith, and I think it boiled down to her lack of relationship with her father. I think if you really, rewatching this
Mhm.
again, it all, look, the Ouija board, I'm sure, had a part in this.
What
Yeah.
was it, Shaylee? Captain Howdy?
Yeah.
Captain Howdy.
Yeah.
The Ouija board, look, you probably don't want to be messing with the Ouija board, but that, I think her lack of faith. I mean, her father not even reaching out to her on her birthday, and him being in Europe, and that's a tough thing, especially during a recent separation of her and her mother. And
Yeah.
she definitely has this tight relationship with her mother, Chris. I think that's her character's name, played
Yeah.
by Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you notice that once, the birthday comes and goes, and it's, she feels, I don't know I'm not exactly sure what she's feeling, but it's not a joy. It's not
Yeah.
a feeling of joy.
Right.
And then you tack the Ouija board on top of it. It's this, once you lose your faith, it's like, you're vulnerable to,
Yeah. Well, and I think there might be something to that, because they make it very clear. It's a big component of this movie, that Father Karras
yes,
is he's
Losing
in
it.
a crisis of faith.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
he is.
He is. What's interesting about his character is, he went to school and got a degree
Oh,
in
yeah.
psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's psychiatry, same difference.
Yeah.
And he's lost his faith, and it's interesting throughout the movie that you see him trying desperately, even though he's a father,
Yeah.
trying desperately to assign a scientific explanation behind things.
Mhm.
When some things just aren't gonna
Yes.
be resolved using science.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's the science
Yeah.
for faith, good, evil,
Yeah.
pull and tug, that
Yeah.
occurs on this film. So yeah, I think maybe
Yeah.
Reagan is having a little bit of a,
I think so. I think it was almost, look, we know how the movie, plays out, but it's almost like a destiny that they were to meet,
Yeah.
the lack of faith, this, Father Karras, I mean, he went to Harvard and went to Johns Hopkins, and
yeah,
and has, I mean, he's a very brilliant man, and here he is, he's some sort of, what do they call him? Like a psychiatrist for these, spiritual psychiatrist or something
Yeah.
for all these, and m- Poor. I mean, let's
Oh,
just
yeah.
call it what it is.
Well,
He's poor.
Yeah.
His mother lives in a shithole
Yeah.
in a horrible neighborhood. And this is all guilt, man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the uncle, his mother's brother even says, you could have, your mother could be living in a penthouse right now, but
Yeah.
you chose a different path.
right,
and,
right.
and he struggles with that.
You definitely. And really quick, I just had another side thought. I'd really love to know or find out, because it's not necessarily explained or even brought up in the movie, whether Reagan was baptized. Like, do they even have a religion? And if not, say baptism in the Catholic Church.
I don't think she had, because the mother seemed to be almost an atheist. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so baptism is supposed to, put you under the protection of God. Like, it's supposed to protect your soul.
Interesting.
So if you're not baptized, technically,
yeah.
demons can.
So the mother being so much against it, my guess would be probably not.
Probably not.
Because he freaked out when she found, the cross underneath the pillow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she seemed to be very
Yeah.
like offended.
Yes, she did.
Mm-hmm.
She did. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a very
What are your thoughts on that, Shaylee?
I mean, yeah, she did seem very offended by it. She was like, going around being like, "Did you put this under her pillow?"
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just also because it was her daughter that she was just freaking out on everything. And
yeah, I think so too.
I think maybe
Yeah.
towards the end of the movie, she started, I don't know if maybe a stretch. She I cannot explain this.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Take your time. I felt that over time as the movie played out, let's say she was completely against this idea of religion. As the movie played out, she grasped onto religion because there was
Yeah.
no other.
Science could not give.
That's
an
what I'm
answer.
trying to
The
explain.
failed,
That's what I'm trying to get
the
at.
failed attempts by all of these millions of doctors and
And
Yeah.
finally, it was the very doctors who,
which is so interesting, right?
well, because they were at a loss.
Do they-
Rick.
I
they
mean,
were at a
and-
loss. They
and-
didn't know
yeah.
what to think of this.
And we know Chris, the mother is an actress, so she's probably very well off. She probably got the best doctor's money could buy.
yeah,
Right? And
Absolutely.
and all of them hit,
she had a
hit
team of
walls.
them in there.
Oh my God, I don't know how many were in that one room. It had to be like 15 or 20. And she even says that I 80 something doctors
you guys can't-
you
yeah.
guys can't figure this out.
Yeah.
And so it was them who suggested an exorcism, which,
And it's interesting because they suggested exorcism. They didn't come from a place of religion when they suggested it. They
Yeah.
came from a place of psychology.
yes.
Because what they said was, there have been documented cases where the idea, like somebody will have an idea in their mind that they can be
Sure.
quote unquote, possessed, and they will be, and only the power of something opposite that suggestion will actually make it disappear. And that's more of a science-based explanation.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so. I'm a believer in that. Have you ever, let me give you an example. Have you ever been around someone? I don't know. Shaylee, I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to get you involved here. You're going to be in high school and so you just finished middle school. I can guarantee you throughout your school years, you've been around kids that have had lice, right? I'm sure you have. Like somewhere along the way, someone has had lice. When you hear that, subconsciously you started itching.
Yeah.
Even though you're perfect. And I think that's what we're talking. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
That's what we're talking about here. It's not necessarily that, but it's that.
It's the power of suggestion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've done it, man.
Absolutely.
Like I will be around someone and all of a sudden they cough or sneeze and I'm like, oh man, I'm starting to feel something,
The brain is a mystery.
It
I mean, we
is.
only have explored 10% of it. There's so much about it that we don't know, and very, very possible.
Yes,
So I think
it
these
is.
doctors are coming from
Yeah.
that place. They're not
Yeah.
really necessarily going, well, go get yourself a Jesuit priest because we think, your daughter's been possessed by Satan or Pazuzu or,
Pazuzu.
you know.
Yeah, Pazuzu.
yeah.
Evil against evil. Did you look that up?
Yes, I did.
I
And
did too. I never caught it before, and a
No.
million other times I watched this
I've watched
movie.
that movie a million times, and it never even occurred to me why that guy said that.
Yes.
And it's because Pazuzu is basically he wards off other evil
Absolutely, because I think it was his wife or something. I'm going to not pronounce this correct, but she's a malicious goddess, Lemushta. Is it
Nice.
Lemushtu? Not bad, huh?
I like the two.
Yeah,
Lemushtu. It's like Call of Cthulhu.
So she was believed to cause harm to mothers and children during childbirth. And so, although Pazuzu himself is an evil spirit, he drives away other evil spirits, thus protecting humans against plagues and misfortunes.
Yeah.
And
doesn't mean he's not evil himself.
Yes. Well,
Clearly.
We know he is, but I never caught it before.
Yeah.
And you know what? So the Iraq scene at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And again, I've watched this movie so many times, and now when you sit back and you're kind of analyzing it for this podcast, I had never really paid attention to the scene before they're in Georgetown, which is where Pazuzu, the statue, and Father Marin he's standing up there kind of
it's
on a
like
cliff.
A confrontation. It's almost like a
Yeah, I
Wild
actually wrote
West.
that down.
Yes.
It's
it
like
felt to me
Wild
like
West, like
we're-
a standoff.
It is a standoff where you and I are going to meet again at some point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I never just paid attention to it. I don't know why I didn't.
Well, so Shaylee, like what are your thoughts on the whole first 30 or 40 minutes? Like that whole Iraq scene.
Well, you had given me more background on, that like when it was back then, where that was taking place, more of like the religious background. I mean,
was it boring to you?
No, it wasn't boring. I actually think it was a good build up for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it was like when they'd found that head of the statue.
Oh yeah, Pazuzu.
It was like they had unleashed it. It's like they disturbed its resting spot, so he's angry now.
Yeah,
that's what it seemed like to me, right? There was no reason why.
That's the way I took it. I'll be honest, Shaylee. Up until last night, I was bored with the first 10 or 15 minutes of the Iraq stuff. I was completely bored. But when I caught that thing, now I'm like more. It's like
Did you notice during that scene when they're like, hey, we found stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes there and he pulls the head.
Yeah.
There's also a medal.
Yeah, it was like
was it like a coin?
Was it a coin or something?
Saint Joseph.
It did. It was something with Joseph in it. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was some sort of coin or something.
And he actually says, "What's this doing here?" Because it has no business being there.
Again, what? Why?
I don't know.
I caught that as well. Like, what the hell does that mean?
It was almost as though you had two items in an archaeological dig in the middle of Iraq that were from two completely different time periods.
Do you think they were buried there because of they carried some sort of, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the St. Joseph medal is like a St. Christopher medal. It's meant to help ward off.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting thing. So maybe what was it? Somebody of this time period or whenever,
And what was this? Was this a tomb of some sort? What was
it?
Was just a
ruin, like a ruin.
Like a
tomb. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, it's a damn good question. I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah.
Last night when he said it, I chalked it up as, okay, well, maybe these objects carried some sort of
Do you
evil.
notice the clock stop?
Inside of the
in the curators.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, clocks, man.
I know, right?
I'm telling you.
First Insidious, his grandfather clocks, man.
Right.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm telling you.
So yeah, up until last night, I found it kind of boring, but
yeah,
but it's very relevant to
I hate to say
the rest of it.
But I tend to fast forward a little bit past the Iraq stuff.
Yeah, I do. I do too.
Because I've seen it.
I've seen it.
There's
before.
nothing more that I can get out of that.
But last night I got two things out of it I never got before.
Yeah.
So the evil against evil, I never paid attention on that line ever.
Yep.
And so yeah, I mean, now we're in Georgetown. Was this not a fitting, Washington D.C., Georgetown? This was an absolute perfect location for all this to go on. I just felt everything about it, the architecture
Mhm.
and just, I don't know, it just felt right to me. And I
Yeah.
don't know, it's probably because I just freaking love this movie, but and I don't want to find anything wrong with it. But
Right.
but I was just watching it going, look, all of it checks off all my boxes. The music is fantastic and the characters and the actors are just so awesome. I mean, you feel for all of them and you engage with every one of them, and the story has me, and then I got this in Washington and Georgetown and all this different architecture. It just seems very fitting. The long staircase and
Yeah.
these things,
And
and
man, that staircase was steep.
damn, dude, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah,
That was pretty. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's where a lot of shady things happen.
Mhm.
Oh, shady.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to go. I mean, I don't think we want to go scene by scene, but I mean, we can. We've already kind of talked about the beginning of the gist of this is we know Chris is an actress,
Mhm.
fairly famous from what we can gather.
Oh yeah.
Her daughter Reagan, played by Linda Blair. I think she's supposed to be 12 years old
12.
here. And they're renting out, I guess, basically renting out a house while she's filming this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
The director Burke, and I don't remember the actor's name, but he's basically the director of this.
Jack McGowan.
Is that it? Jack
Yeah.
McGowan? Okay. Don't recall ever seeing him in anything else.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah. But they're filming a movie there. Chris is the star, but we know that Reagan is eventually going to get possessed here by a demon.
Yeah.
The demon is Pazuzu. And she slowly starts to, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to use the word deteriorate, but she's taken over.
Well, if
She's basically, she's still there. There's still the human,
she's almost. You're right. I mean, she's there
Mhm.
because she is interacting in the beginning, still interacting,
Yeah.
to questions or whatever. But she almost seems in a daze.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A very days where her vocabulary for vulgarity is very good. Which is pretty funny. I mean, she is throwing F-bombs, she's spitting at people, she's doing all of these
But
things.
even
and it's-
before that happens, she just, like when she's in the bathtub and the mom's
Yeah.
giving her a bath,
Right
Mhm.
after she peed herself.
right after she peed herself, she's just down there and she's like, "You're all gonna die."
Yeah,
You're
you're
gonna die
you're
up
gonna
there,
die up there. I think
something,
she's
yeah.
talking to the pilot or something, whatever he is. I assumed he was a pilot. It wasn't really explained, but
Yeah.
so and then the scene where she's just laying in bed and she looks like she's just so
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's slowly these demons are slowly taking. Well, it's really one main demon. You think, and it's several different characters or demons inside her, but it's really one. It's just manifested different.
Well, so
You
and
know.
I feel like the part of the movie, the scene that shows when she was like, all of that was like the slowly Pazuzu is possessing her, but when he finally does was after she's flopping up and down on the
man.
bed, and she finally goes back and her eyes go white.
Yes.
That
That's
part
the part where
freaked me out.
Did that freak you out?
That one freaked me out because
All
she
right,
was like
see, that's
groaning
good.
and
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
was like, and then her like throat started getting
Her
all.
throat got
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's that's good stuff, man.
yeah.
That's good stuff. So yeah, I mean, we know she's played with the Ouija board. We know, again, I like I said earlier, maybe it's just the lack of faith. It's this strained relationship between her mother and father, and the father is basically, I don't know, man. He's just being selfish and doesn't call her on her birthday, and it's probably who knows what he's doing. And so it's this, it's this feeling that she has of, I don't know, am I not good enough for my dad, and all of these things, and
Yeah.
then on top of this, her messing with the Ouija board with Captain Howdy. She was very susceptible to.
Which we're gonna go ahead and assume was Pazuzu.
Yeah, that's
Probably.
what we have to assume. I was trying to look this up. What else would it be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it more than likely Pazuzu. It was just a voice, maybe many voices that I guess Pazuzu would be a man. He's taken over, and it was Captain Howdy was just one of those, and so yeah,
Well, it's like how do you gain the confidence of a 12-year-old girl? Well, I mean, you act like I don't know, some sort of
friend.
but like some sort of like a cartoon character almost. Like
Sounds
Captain
like it.
Howdy. That sounds like
a cartoon you and I would have watched growing up,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Saturday morning,
But one of the scenes that really piqued my interest, it was maybe the first or second time that Father Karras came, and he pulls out the vial of water, and he's like,
yeah.
and she's like, "What's that?" And he says, "Holy water," and he's like tossing it on her, and she's reacting, and then later you find out that it was tap water.
Yeah.
So that like piqued my interest because I was like, well, you're claiming you're the devil, first of all.
Yes.
And then when someone says that it's holy water and it's thrown on you, you react as if it were, but we find out that it wasn't. So why?
Well, is it simply again, where we were talking earlier about subconsciously, you convince yourself of something, and it's this,
and I think that is an attempt to introduce an element of non-belief into what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
That perhaps this is there is some sort of scientific reason. Perhaps this is a power of suggestion thing. Perhaps Reagan's not possessed at all.
Yeah.
It just plants that seed back there.
Mm-hmm.
I think with me, if I'm, and I guess as being, Father Karras, seeing a lot of stuff over his years, doing what he does, I walk into this bedroom and I can't really explain a lot of these things, the sounds that are coming out of her, the way she looks.
Well, he doesn't really have a lot of experience with this. That's Marin who does.
No, I'm just saying look, if you and I, whether we were priests or not, and we walk into a bedroom
and we see something like this, we're going to be like,
okay, we'll see you later. We're out of here.
see, I think it's because of his, again, he's already
losing his faith.
He's already losing his faith, and he's got that whole other side of him, which is more of like the science base.
He does.
And so he's approaching everything with this scientific state of mind, including what he's seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Rick. If I walked into a room and saw that would be it for me. I'm like, I don't need any other evidence. I'm like, some kind of possession shit's going down.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like we sat here and we decided to, I don't know, make all of this shit up, and we know Chris is distraught. She's exhausted. She has nowhere else to go. She's tried everything and nothing has worked. And this is really it. This is the Hail Mary right here.
Yeah.
And so, where do we want to kind of jump in here? Do we want to talk about, the death of Burke? Do we want to, where do we want to?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can touch on that a little bit because, obviously in the director's cut, there was, they had cut out a pretty gnarly scene. That was the spider walk scene.
Yes.
Any listeners who've seen it, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't seen it,
oh my God, you gotta see it. It's
very creepy. Reagan is contorted backwards and is kind of spider crawling down the stairs.
Oh my God,
gets to the bottom of the stairs, does this contorted flip around on all fours, and then starts sticking out her tongue like a lizard. And it's very freaky. And they cut it out, as you know, because there was like a double climax that happened. That was like, it was like there was the climax of finding out of Chris finding out that Burke had died. And then immediately after was this scene, and they felt that the double climax, they couldn't really work it out. So they cut it out.
Yeah. I when I was rewatching this, because I'd watched this documentary. Did you watch it too, The Fear of God? Did you watch it?
Yeah.
So I had seen this many years ago and I had forgotten most of it, but I do remember this one part where you have William Friedkin, the director, and William Peter Blatty, the writer. And they're kind of arguing back and forth as to, and William Peter Blatty goes, you know what I could have done is I could have just before Chris reacted to the death of Burke, I could immediately had, Reagan coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
That way,
Yeah.
it wasn't two climax. It was just
One
she had
giant climax.
Yes, one giant climax. Holy shit! All this is thrown at me,
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the director agreed in that
Yeah.
moment, I believe. He
Yes,
goes,
I
yeah,
think-
that would have been.
Yeah, I think so. He
Yeah.
did, and it makes sense. And it's a very powerful scene. It scares the hell out of me, man.
Mhm.
And I think I had read they hired a contortionist, and they somehow rigged something, and she's going down the stairs. They did a lot of cool, very cool, like almost groundbreaking things with this movie that
Yeah.
you just couldn't.
Well, I mean,
they had to figure stuff
It's
out.
all practical effects.
All
and,
practical, yeah. Like the one scene where Chris comes into the bedroom and stuff is flying around the room. They
Yeah.
showed how they did that, and
Yeah.
and it's interesting to see all these little things kind of behind the scenes of how they did this or they did that, and
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, oh man, we know. Look, I mean, it's not clearly said until a little later, but we know that Reagan or Pazuzu has pushed Burke out of the window.
Yeah.
Really, let's be real here. He twists his head.
Yeah.
Which requires a lot of strength.
Yeah.
Twists his head completely around and then tosses his ass out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now Chris is trying to not say anything about this
Now,
at
if-
first.
if memory serves me, wasn't he the one that was drunk
Oh,
off
yeah.
his
Yes,
ass?
He was.
at the
Oh my God,
party.
that guy
And he was
so-
giving the I forget his name, Carl. I don't know if Carl was like the butler.
Yeah.
Because he's German. He kept calling him Nazi this. I'm like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, dude. Just because he's German doesn't mean I'm German. And
Yeah.
I think you got some German in you, don't you?
Yeah,
You got a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we're not Nazis, but yeah, he just kept giving him shit and shit. He was drunk off of his ass.
Oh my God, he was so drunk.
Yeah. So yeah. And I guess Burke was the director of the film that that Chris is the star of. I didn't see. I guess they were just friends. I didn't see a romantic thing with them. It just didn't. I don't know. Maybe there was. It just didn't feel like a good fit to me. But that's just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
So Shaylee, I've got a question for you. Being that I know it's 2 years and 2 years between 12 and 1 year, because you'll be 14
Yep.
this year, so I'll call it 2. Did you feel any sort of connection with Reagan's character at all?
I'm iffy about that one because, when I was watching it, I wasn't thinking about her age per se. I wasn't like,
Okay.
she's 13, she's my age, and this is happening to her.
Did that, but so it didn't occur to you in the moment, like oh my God, it's like, a kid completely my age, and then like maybe you could relate to that, like, oh, what if that happened to me, or like,
Well, with my whole thing, I don't personally, I don't think that I'm vulnerable to get possessed. Like, I don't want to jinx anything,
sure,
but like,
let's
Find some wood to
I'll
knock on.
knock on wood for you.
but I'm not, doing Ouija boards, which I think played a big role in her possession.
Yeah.
And I have my own beliefs. They don't fit like a certain religion, but I have formed my own beliefs over the year of like, of things, that I could believe.
and really
Or-
quick, give us a idea of what that might be, like what.
I was talking about this to you
Mhm.
after we watched it, and my whole perception of hell isn't fire and all of that. I perceive hell as just a world like this,
Mhm.
but it's miserable and everything in your life just goes wrong. No one's on your side.
Really? That's an interesting. So like this world, but it's almost like you just have a shitty day every single day, and it's like
Yeah.
almost like a Groundhog Day where it's just
And-
everything's repeating and it's bad.
Not
and-
necessarily the same day,
Okay.
but just that.
Just nothing goes right for you.
Yeah. And I also perceive hell as it's like you almost get a good thing. It's like you are right there. You can almost get it, and then it just goes south.
It's taken away from you.
Yeah.
Like
So
you
it's
can
like
almost-
you're
You
like
never get the
grasp it,
prize.
yeah.
yeah.
It's like, yep.
So it's like
Interesting.
tormenting you.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see that. That's an interesting
Because
take on that.
in a lot of, if not most religions, some people view hell as a place. Like they view hell as some fiery,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where I almost look at hell as similar to Shaylee. It's a state of mind
Yeah.
that wherever we go after this, if you believe that we move on from this plane of existence, wherever you go, you take all of your grief and guilt
Mhm.
and all of the worst aspects of emotion, negative emotion, and everything. You take it with you, and
Mhm.
you just torment yourself with it.
And that's why
And that's your hell. So but what, how much bad shit do you have to do?
that was just about to get to that.
Because I mean, what's the rules there? Not in your hell. I'm just saying as a whole. I mean, there's a lot of people that probably have done bad stuff over their life and still get into whatever heaven is that they think in their head. I'm not religious. I believe there's probably some sort of hell, like you're saying. I don't know if it's exactly how you say. And there's probably some sort of place where it's really nice. I don't know what that is because I'm not educated enough on it. But
So what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I think the people that go to hell are just the awful people, like, rapists,
Mhm.
murderers, people like that just don't feel any remorse for the actions that they're doing, and they're inflicting pain on others on purpose.
Mm.
I don't think there's any coming back from that.
Mhm.
Especially like murder. If you kill someone, I don't think
Maliciously.
maliciously, like not out of like self-defense. If you're
or
defending
or
yourself,
an
then
accident of some sort.
Yeah. If
No.
you're maliciously killing someone, there's no coming back from that. You did that, even if you didn't at the time, you were just like angry. Like, yeah, if you regret it, then okay, but that you still did it.
Let me throw a question at you. We don't want to get too deep into this, but let's just say, for instance, I don't know, someone at 22 years old murdered someone, went to prison for, maybe they didn't get life for some whatever reason, and they spent 30 or 40 years in prison, and they got out at 60. But while they were in, they did a lot of good things. Is there some sort of redemption there? It's tough, man. I don't know.
Everything in this world is a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Every single decision and every action that you make ripples out into the universe and and someone is affected by it.
Yeah.
How large a ripple are you making and how negative a ripple are you making? I don't know. Do you spend the rest of your life atoning? Okay. And you still did it though.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I'm definitely a believer in karma. I've seen way too many examples of it over the years, and so I do, I try to put good stuff out into the universe, and hopefully it comes back. And
look, the bottom line is human beings are flawed beings.
We're definitely not.
Mhm.
We're not perfect. Yeah.
So everybody sins. What one person's idea of a bad sin might be different from somebody else's, idea of a bad sin. And, it's really about, how much of your life did you spend, being selfish or thinking only of yourself or being malicious or,
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I probably, when I get older, I'm probably not going to follow a religion. I don't want to be a religious person because to me, personally, I just feel like that ties you down and that just puts too many rules on you. And I am a person who wants to be able to do things on my own free will. I don't want people to control me, and I don't want to, have to do things to accommodate a higher power. And I don't want to I don't want to say waste, but, spend my life trying to fit into a bubble. Because I feel like religion is just trying to fit yourself into a bubble
Mm-hmm.
and like a group of people that
is.
all believe in one thing. That's
Well,
just a big bubble because you
I-
have to do the same things. Everyone in that religion's
Mhm.
doing the same things.
Yep.
They follow
They
the
are.
same things, and I don't think that it
And-
serves much of a purpose.
And they look down on you if you don't follow the stuff they believe. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
Yeah.
it's
I mean-
completely hypocritical of what,
I mean, there is that whole cliche thing about how, religion is the opiate of the masses. But
Yeah.
there's a certain truth to that.
Yeah.
You have a large group of people who have really, at the end of the day, look, I mean, faith aside, none of us knows what's going to happen when we die.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So,
No.
sure, somebody who's got, heavy into faith sitting right here might say, bullshit. I know what's going to happen because I have a faith and I'm going to be going to heaven or whatever. But when you distill it down, you do not know.
Yeah.
So nobody truly knows. And so there's a certain, there can be a certain hysteria to that. There could,
Mhm.
if you don't control that in some way, it's pandemonium because then the rule of law is broken down. If you don't believe that or if your faith is shaken and suddenly there's this idea that there isn't something after this life, then what does any of it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Right? So religion often puts a control on people
And
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
reason alone.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to follow a religion because of a lot of the things, like a lot of the rules they put on you, I don't agree with. And I'm not like when I say this, I don't want to, trash on a certain religion, but
Yes. Yeah.
a lot of the religions, like Christianity, I don't agree with a lot of the things that Christians have to follow because to me, they, it's like love thy neighbor as you love thyself. But if you're going to trash on other people for what they believe,
Yep.
like I know a lot of Christians that are, shameful and like, bash on other people that don't follow that religion
Right.
because it's, not their ideals. But that's not fair because everyone should be able to,
Mhm.
have their own beliefs. No one should be forced to follow your beliefs because you think it's right. And I know a person who would try to force their religion on other people. And we're still friends. He doesn't do that anymore. But, I don't like that because I want to, I want to be able to have my own opinions and I don't want to get into an argument about
Mhm.
something because a lot of
Yeah.
people start arguments over
Well, it's
certain
the-
things
it's the-
because of their
yep.
religion.
It's the two things.
It's an insecurity.
Yeah.
That's where it's
Yeah.
rooted from.
Yeah, and those two things they always say that the two things you never want to argue with someone about or have conversations is politics and religion because you guys are just gonna have different opinions and different beliefs.
Yeah.
And their beliefs, I have plenty of friends that are very religious. They have never ever tried to shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
And never
And-
get into a land war in Asia.
And that's why
Yeah.
my friend, he stopped doing that. And I'm very capable of having a friendship and a relationship with someone if they're not going to
Mhm.
judge me on what I
Yes.
believe in. And, some of the things that, are shamed upon in the Christian religion, I am. So, but they don't bash me for it. They don't
Yeah.
look at me different because of what I, what I follow and who I am.
They shouldn't begrudge you for whatever you believe in and vice versa. That's
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful things that occurs with somebody who is heavy into a faith is when their faith gets shattered.
Yeah.
So with in the when we are talking about Father Karras, I mean, that's his whole thing. He himself almost seems tormented.
Oh
Mhm.
yes, he is.
He
is. He very much is, man.
Yeah.
I think it really kind of came overboard is when his mother passed away, and that
He wasn't there.
wasn't there. Can you imagine that? How it's like, okay, you chose this path and you felt it was the right path for you at the time, but in the meantime, you're poor,
Yeah.
your mother's poor and really bad off,
Yeah.
and then she dies and you're not even there, man.
If I
And-
had one thing I could critique this movie on, and
Mhm.
maybe it's just the way they edited it.
Okay.
There's a bit, and it happens off screen. She goes to
I don't know what that was. Some sort of
some kind of
I
hospital
don't know what that was,
or
dude.
something.
It almost looked like a mental institute.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I
Because
think
maybe
it
that's
actually
all they
probably
could
was.
afford or something.
And then you don't hear from her again until his friend tells him, there's that scene where, they're in his little apartment and he's drinking
Yeah, some whatever.
Chivas Regal.
Oh,
It's like blended scotch.
Yeah, blended scotch. Yeah.
And he's obviously he's drunk because, and he found out his mom died, and so it's like, okay, but they make it clear that she died in her house.
Yes.
So at some point off screen, I guess they took her out of there.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
they were saying that like when he went to visit her,
Yeah.
she was flipping out and he was like, we're going to get you out of here. We're going to get you out of here. You're going to go home.
Yeah.
So that made me assume that
assume that happened.
Yeah.
she ended up going home,
Yeah.
which,
She he didn't want her living there, but that was her home. I mean, she's probably lived, and this is, I think,
So
was that
they're-
in New York? Was
It-
that in New York? Because I know he took the train.
Yeah.
Because
Listen, they're Italian.
Yeah.
And
They stay.
those old
Oh, yeah.
world Italians.
Yes, I agree.
No, they're not interested in
Nope.
dying in some mental play. I mean,
No.
they're going to die in their home.
In their home, and
that's
they're not going anywhere. And so she could have
Yeah.
lived in that place 40, 50 years.
She probably did.
She probably did.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's probably not great out there, but this is my home.
My
And no
great
matter what-
grandmother from Portugal. It's similar. It's a very similar thing. And she wasn't going to go into some old folks. She's going to die in her damn house.
Yeah.
You know.
I'd probably be the same damn way, dude.
Mhm.
Same damn way, You know what got me last night rewatching this? Never got me before. Was that interaction between his mother and him when he went to see her in that whatever that was, and she just turned her head.
Yeah.
It was almost like I'm turning my back.
She was.
You've let me down,
She was.
and that was super powerful for
You
me.
did not-
I choked up a little bit.
You did not
could
do
feel,
that.
Yeah, you could feel the emotion in that scene. I never. Again, this is what I love about rewatching movies, and movies that we could see 100 times, but we catch things that we just didn't before, or it hits us in a different way when we watch it.
It's authentic to that culture. It's authentic to that whole. It was a very good scene specifically for that reason.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That is exactly how an old world Italian woman of that age would react.
yeah,
Because in her mind, her son betrayed her.
Yeah.
That's it.
yeah.
Betrayed her. Turned his back.
It's sad,
Wasn't
man.
there.
And he couldn't make any sort of
She
amends.
flat
and
out told him,
Yeah,
I'm staying here. And next thing she knows, she's in a facility.
yeah,
And she's like, you did this.
yeah,
Yeah.
You weren't there to have my back and to honor my wish. So she turned her head. Like it's one of those,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
yeah,
acknowledge you. You don't
yeah.
get to speak to me.
It's tough, man, because he chose his route, and he went down this route, and he could have done a lot of different things, probably made a lot more money,
Oh yeah.
but he chose God. He chose his faith, and really he's kind of paying for it, right? I mean, in
Well.
his it's a kind of an odd way to look at it, but religion and faith is supposed to be this foundation for you, and for him it's really become a burden for him.
Well,
Yeah.
to be honest, it's almost the events that take place, are his to internalize and to help him with his battle of this crisis of faith. Because like I said, I mean, everything leading up to that, he's in this crisis of faith, and just take religion aside. How many times in your life have you just swore you knew the answer to a thing?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like, it's the answer to a math problem. I mean like
sure,
like a life issue,
yeah,
right? You got a good beat on things and you have a way of thinking about it, and that's that. And then something happens in your life that shakes that to the core.
yeah, yeah,
And now your faith in your belief of that thing has now been crumbled away, and you're left raw and trying to figure out. And it usually takes something major to rebuild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that this was his crisis moment.
Yeah.
I think that whole movie, this whole part of this movie where he comes, he gets asked by Chris, I think that was his moment of reaffirming.
Yes.
I
believe so. I believe, like I said, I believe their paths were meant to cross here.
Uh-huh.
And I can't imagine. I mean, I know, with me, we're all different, but I'm all about I'm a balanced guy with me, and everything is always balanced. And when something happens, and it could be something small with me, because I sometimes let those small things, kind of consume me. But when my balance is off, man, I'm just not right. I don't like that feeling at all. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, and that's really what, kind of like what this is here for him. And it's yeah, man, I the another scene that got me, again, it was very powerful. It choked me up, was when she was, when she first meets, Father Karras, and they're walking and they're having that conversation about her daughter, and they sit on that bench, and she is pleading, "I need your help." And it was so emotional for me. Like I said, I actually started choking up here. I could almost put myself into her shoes. I have nowhere else to go. We can't figure this out. And this is my 12-year-old daughter here. I need your help, man.
Yeah.
You're like my last resort.
It's interesting because his reaction to the word exorcism was spot on. I mean, it's something that very much was in the closet in the Catholic, and he's a Jesuit priest. So it's basically, and that was spot on. I mean, and he really, that threw him, because he was like, come on now.
Right.
That's just not something that, we just do, even though it is a thing you actually.
It's not like some popular thing. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to fill out this form.
This questionnaire.
So Shaylee, was there, okay, so early on you said some stuff that kind of, made you laugh, which I'm trying to forgive you. It's going to take me time. But is there some, other than I think you had mentioned one scene, is there other scenes that just like, okay, I know what my Uncle Rick is talking about here. This is why this movie is so good. Anything like, just, I don't know, the head spinning around, just anything. I mean, stuff moving. I don't know.
I think the scenes that made me laugh, like those handfuls of scenes, were balanced out by tons of handfuls of other scenes that genuinely freaked me out, like when she rolls her eyes back and she's groaning.
All the different voices. I loved the speaking the language, English in reverse.
What do you think of the vomiting?
So gross.
It looked a little bit tacky, I'm not gonna lie. The vomit.
So when you say tacky, do you mean sticky, or tacky as in
like kind of cheesy? Like, like, again, 1973.
I know. Like now looking back, that looked kind of tacky because it's just like green vomit.
Yeah.
Pea soup and oatmeal, I think, is what they used.
Yeah.
Probably Campbell's. That's a little plug for Campbell's, just in case you guys need to sell more cans.
Sure.
But I mean, it was definitely gross, her vomiting on Father Marion while, he's trying to get the demon out of her. That's pretty gross. Her vomiting on his face, that was gross.
Father
No,
Karras? That was Father Karras.
That was the huge stream.
That was supposed to hit him in the chest.
It was, and it hit him.
Did you watch that?
I didn't watch that. Yeah.
It was supposed to hit him in the chest,
That's
but then
gross.
they kept moving stuff around, and it hit him in the face, and he got pissed. So that reaction is real. They did a couple other takes, and they're like, "Nope, we're using that first one."
Yeah.
So that's a genuine reaction.
See, those are the happy mistakes that I think
those are great.
Yeah.
Those are great mistakes, man. Yeah. That's so foul.
It is.
It still grosses me out. Or when she's they kind of go through the like the first round of the exorcism, and she's she's kind of like worn out and she's got her head
to
tilted
the side and it's oozing out.
Yeah.
It's just oozing out. It's just raw.
So really quick, because we haven't really talked about Father Mirren, and at
We
that point
haven't.
he's already come in here, and I mean that's the iconic
Max von Sydow.
poster.
Yeah.
Where he leaves,
Oh, my
gets out of the
God, yeah.
cab,
And then
Yeah.
they show
Right?
you.
Oh, such yeah.
and you know what I loved the most, and this was such an awesome example of science versus faith. When he comes in there and Father Karras is like, well, do you want to know some backstory about what's going on? And he's like, and Father Marin's like, why? Like,
It's a demon,
right?
dude. Yeah.
So you've got
Yeah.
Father Karras who's coming at it from science,
Science, yeah.
and Father Marion is like, there's no
Let's just get it
science
done.
here.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
complete faith. There's no science going on.
Yeah.
And it was in one other scene when they're in the room, not Reagan's room, but they're in this other room and they're
Oh, yeah.
preparing.
Yes.
And Father Marin is sort of coaching Father Karras on what to
Yeah.
expect. He's a trickster. He's gonna the attack is gonna come in. It's gonna be a psychological attack. It's gonna be lies mixed with some truth. Do not listen to him.
Yes.
And Father Karras attempts to say, well, so are you interested in knowing that there's, how many different personalities we're
Yeah,
dealing
there's
with in
like-
here, and there's at least 3 distinct
Yeah.
personalities. And Father Marin's like, there's only the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And there was something so faith-based about that. And it
was, yeah.
It really
Because he's
threw-
so sure of himself.
he absolutely was.
It's like Father Karras is this rookie and
Yep.
and Marin is this veteran.
yeah.
I've seen this, man.
I mean,
I've done this. This is
White
my first
hair,
rodeo.
Just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's taking nitroglycerin pills
Oh,
because he's
God.
a bad heart. He's the only one left, apparently, in the Jesuit sect that actually does
has
these.
dealt with this. I think
yeah.
he did an Exorcist. I don't know how many years back, and it said it lasted for months, and
Yeah.
basically turned his hair
White.
You
Yeah,
know,
he was just ashen.
yes. I mean, what I love about this is Max von Sydow. People say Sydow, could be Sydow. I'm gonna say Sydow for this, and hopefully I'm saying it right. He was only 43, 44 when this was done.
That's a good
So
makeup.
so he looked like he was in his 70s.
He absolutely did, and he seemed frail. to me.
43, 44.
Yeah.
Dude, you and I are older than that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look far better than you. I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
Ah,
But I mean, he was 43, 44. He looked like he was in his 70s. We're talking
Yeah.
1973. The makeup on this is just phenomenal.
it really is.
And
Yeah.
not only the makeup, but as this, he was such a great character actor.
He even had
Oh my
the
God.
he even had like the way he walked and sort
Yes.
of like when he pulled his crucifix out and kissed it.
Yes.
He kind of was shaking. His hands were shaking as he like went to kiss it, and then he puts it down all gingerly like an
Mhm.
old man would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fantastic in this.
Mhm.
But what was interesting, and I didn't realize this until watching some of the special features, is a couple of the priests in this movie, Father Dyer, for instance, is a
Mhm.
real priest.
Real priest. Yeah.
And I forget the other gentleman's name. The one where I don't know if they were having a beer together, him and Father Karras. He's a real priest as well.
Yeah.
I'm watching these
Yeah.
special features documentaries, and I'm like, these guys are priests. I mean, it basically adds to how genuine this movie is and
Mhm.
how very real
Really.
right?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the Father Marin, my Catholic upbringing, I have been around a ton of Catholic priests, old ones like that,
Oh yeah.
and nuns.
Oh,
Yeah, I had my hands slapped many times by nuns.
is it a ruler? Is it
It's
they
a
slap,
ruler.
It's a slap
God,
you with a ruler?
Yeah, and you got to understand back then in school there was it was okay to spank kids. Oh, I
Ugh.
got spanked numerous times.
At
Straight up spanked.
oh my gosh.
Like you would never in a million years dream of doing something like that. You'd get
hell
sued.
no.
But back
Hell
in the
no. Yeah.
70s, nah. And the nuns,
Yeah.
they're ruthless.
Oh my god.
Dude, rulers crossing knuckles. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. And we're not talking
No.
we're not talking flat.
Oh,
We're talking
then they turn it
up
over.
on-
Oh
Mhm.
my God, that would hurt,
Ow.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh my
And it
God.
very much did. But my point I was trying to make was how accurate Father Merrin's, that actor's portrayal of an old, frail priest is, because it literally flashed back. Yeah, I had
Really?
flashbacks to, interacting with,
Yeah.
because I did the whole altar boy thing. And
You the altar boy. The altar boy thing. You're altar boy. So what else you want to talk about, Shaylee? What else? Come on, tell me other stuff.
Did the power of Christ compel
Did
you?
the power of Christ compel you?
Definitely.
Was it compelling?
It was
Is
very
the sow
compelling.
yours? The sow is mine.
Um,
The sow is mine.
What I found interesting was, obviously Father Merrin was trying to, prepare Father Karras for everything that was going to happen. And then the second round, Father Merrin takes a break to go take his little pills.
Yes, pills for his heart.
And Karras just walks back into the room. He just mows on in. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I know, right? You rookie.
And then he starts getting like, because, she's talking to him and she, eventually she makes herself sound like the mom.
Yeah.
And I think that was his
Demi-
breaking
Demi-
point.
Will you do that to me, Demi?
And eventually that was his breaking point.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, Father Merrin had to kick him out of the room.
Totally.
Because he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah,
He
you
wasn't
had to
listening to
exercise
him.
him.
I was
He
like,
exercised his ass from the room.
dang.
Yep.
One thing really quick that it occurred to me, and I don't know, but it just seems, Shaylee had mentioned, I think it was Shaylee, had mentioned earlier about the when Karras pulled out the holy water
Yes.
Mhm.
and how he Reagan reacted.
Mhm.
I just wonder if that wasn't trickery. If the demon wasn't tricking him and being kind of giving Father Karras a false sense of that he's actually
Oh.
doing something.
Like,
that
the
is
demon's
affecting-
trying to make it seem like she's just, playing, like she's just,
he's just
Playing a role?
playing along,
Mhm.
tricking him.
so that
you know,
there's not an exorcism.
because when Father Merrin actually splashes real holy water,
Yeah.
there is an actual visual effect when it goes across her
Yes,
leg when
true.
she's floating.
Yeah.
And it literally
Yeah.
it,
Yep. It's like taking off skin or
it
whatever else.
is
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I think that even though at the surface it seems like, well, okay, that was tap water. And so this kid is reacting to regular tap water, i.e. therefore it must not be a
Yeah.
possession.
Mhm.
I'm actually
Yeah.
going the other direction now. I'm thinking that no, that the demon absolutely did
Yeah,
that
I
on
never
purpose.
really
Demon's
when I
smart.
saw that scene and heard that it was tap water, I never really thought to myself, "Oh, she's just faking all of this."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no,
I didn't
never,
have an
ever.
explanation for it, but I did not
What made you
think.
it certainly made you wonder though.
Well, yeah,
you
I
sort
was
of-
like,
like
"Why are
f-
you reacting?"
Yeah,
like
well,
that,
when you
then?
find out that it's tap water, you're like, oh, well,
Yeah, but
well,
again,
why did he react that way if it's just regular?
but I
tap
think
water?
it comes back to what we talked about. Is you convince yourself of certain things.
Mhm.
It's a psychological thing, and
Mhm.
and we all do it, and we've all done it. So, I mean, I don't know if demons are excluded from that. And
Yeah.
we do know. I mean, this demon is very smart, and
Oh, yeah.
and it's like you said, it's a trickster.
It's
It's a trickster.
psychological attack.
And
Yeah.
so we know Father Karras, I mean his mother just passed away, so this is a very very recent obviously it's a very sensitive
Mhm.
subject, and these demons again are very smart. What are you gonna play? What card are you gonna
Yeah.
use on this guy?
Yeah.
Let me use his
I
the
would-
mother card.
Well, I would love to know, and we're never gonna know because it happened off screen. What killed Father Maris?
Yeah, did his
Was
heart
it a-
just give out?
Was it a physical thing?
I
I don't
know.
think so. I think it was a psychological thing. I think
Could be.
the demon just
I always thought, again, I don't know the answer to this. I just always thought that his heart just gave out. It was too much for him.
Yeah.
And but it could have been, yeah.
I
Could have
remember Shaylee and I, when we were watching it the other day.
been.
It was earlier when they show the scene of Father Maris, he's in. I look like he's in the woods or something.
Oh, Father Marin.
Father Marin.
Yeah.
And the messenger gives him the note from
Yeah.
the church, and it's funny. You can see him. He opens it up, and you can his body language. You can see he's like disheveled. He's like,
Oh,
really?
no.
I got to do another one of these.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah. But of course he's going to, whether or
absolutely.
not his heart is going to give out or not, or whether, he's got that faith thing, and he's
absolutely.
he's going to, he's almost like the,
Do you think when Karis, when he at like the final scene, when he is like, take me instead, and then we briefly see the demon go into him, and then his face gets all gross, and then he stops himself and he's able to regain control and then jumps out of the window. Do you think that was maybe him regaining his faith? Maybe.
I think you're right on the money.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right on the money with that one. I think that's that's a great point. I think so. I think his faith kicked in. I think what he did, for her, sacrificed really himself for her.
Like the ultimate sacrifice.
It really is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew what this demon was capable of.
Mm-hmm.
He spent any time with this thing in his body, it's just going to take him over like it did, Reagan. So he reacted immediately and it was his ass out the window.
Well,
man.
it was his redemption moment.
Yeah.
It was a redemption of his own faith, crisis of faith. Not as though, he'd done a bunch of bad things in his life. I don't mean that, but it was his moment where, he redeemed his faith, his own internal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just, they're with, and I love this scene at the end. He's, everyone kind of gathers around him at the bottom of the stairs. You got I think there's, police officers, and there's just, those
bystanders,
the bystanders, the random people that have nothing better to do than, to gawk at what's happening. And then Father Dyer pulls it, comes up and he speaks with him. And you watch this in that documentary that William Friedkin had. They had all these different takes. They weren't getting it right, and he finally slapped him.
Yep.
And then they did the take, and so the shaking of his hand was genuine. He was startled by this, and it, and so these are the things that I love. It's the realism of this. This is a real emotion that Father Dyer is feeling. Not to mention he was a real priest, so I'm sure he's done something similar to this before. But that in that moment, and
well, and there's a process there, and it's across all modes of art. Character acting, you have to get the actor into a headspace, a proper headspace. Okay. They can know the lines, everything can be set just right, but if they're not in the headspace for it, it's going to fail. Everything comes out in the performance, and the same. That's why I said it goes across all modes of art. Let's say take music production. I do the music production. I've had Shaylee do a number of vocal performances in some of my pieces, and I have to sometimes, it's no knock on her, because I have to do it for myself.
Yeah.
I have to spend a good solid 15, 20 minutes going at her in different ways until I get her into a headspace so that when I hit record, I can, she can deliver the lines or the vocal or whatever it is in such a way that's convincing, because without the headspace, it's shallow.
And it's easier for a trained actor to get in that headspace.
Well, they do it all the time.
We know Father Dyer was a priest.
Yeah.
He doesn't act.
Yeah.
He did a pretty good job. I will admit he was pretty good, but when they needed, something extra, William Friedkin, which from what I understand was notorious for this. He would shoot guns to startle people.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
This guy wasn't messing around. I think he pissed off a lot of people, but I think at the same time, they really spoke highly of him because they knew what he was trying to do with this film.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you have to do that in order to get The performance.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine, so being in the early 1970s and doing a film like this, knowing that you are going to piss off a lot of people?
Mhm.
I would say more people that then than now.
Oh yeah,
People
can
Yeah.
tolerate this sort of thing now.
But then, I mean, you know, not to mention trying to convince a studio, because a lot of studios passed on this.
Yeah.
A lot of executives passed on this. A lot of them thought it was horrible, to convince them of this and to stick by your guns and believe in, you know, in what you're doing here.
Mhm.
You know, we have something here. We're not sure what, but we have something.
Yeah.
And it was it all came to fruition, you know, once that hit the theaters. And they released it to, I mean, it was like they'd have it in a theater, and then all of a sudden there were hundreds of people lined up around the blocks, and they started adding theaters, and the reactions to people were just, you know, you know, and it just over time, and this is now how many years? 47,
something like that.
47 years ago. I mean, again, still holds up for me. To me, it's even if I took out the stuff that I consider scary there, Shaylee, you know, elements that I get freaked out by, even if I was to take that stuff out, the movie stands alone as just, I mean, there's nothing about it that I felt they cheaped out on.
Yeah.
They took a shortcut on. There isn't anything. And that's why I enjoy this movie so much. And that's why I constantly, you know,
and one of the most iconic music pieces.
Oh, absolutely. Which
I had a lot
know,
of fun doing that.
Yes,
that
wait,
intro
yeah.
music.
Yeah. Well, I guess if people are listening to this episode, they're going to already hear the intro.
Yeah, they would have already.
I was
heard
going to
it.
already talk about it, but they're going to hear it, and you know, it's phenomenal. It's great, and it's yeah. But anyways, do we anything else we want to kind of talk about? Anything else? I mean, I know we didn't do our normal episode where we kind of jump to scene, and you know, this didn't warrant that.
Yeah,
This-
no, I don't
this-
think so.
Rick, I mean, this is one of these movies that, you know, like I said, there's a lot of religious components to this, and this isn't one that really is necessary to go scene by scene.
No.
You know?
And you know, there's a good chance if the, you know, anyone out there that's listening to this podcast is a horror fan, and thank you for listening. But more than likely, you've already seen The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
And I guess if you hadn't, you know, I mean, there's probably some out there that haven't, and you listen to this and now go check it out, and you know,
Well, we can get some of Shaylee's generation on board. I can almost all but guarantee you many of them have not.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure
Definitely
they have.
not. I've talked to people that say that they like horror movies, and I'm like, have
Most
you
of them
seen
have
The
not.
Exorcist? And they're like, no.
What's that?
And I'm like,
You sh-
so are you really a horror fan?
Yeah, you need to shame them. Even though you laughed at a few parts, I'm still very emotional about that. I am slowly getting over it. But I mean, I know you liked. Did you like this movie?
Yes, I really did. I did like
and
it.
stuff scared you a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. See, you know,
It just doesn't have the same religious
No,
impact that it did
Yeah.
with us, and that I think is the main takeaway here.
Yeah.
Is, you know,
What's funny, I will tell you a quick story. And I'm not going to get into names, but a friend of mine, his nephew, watched this movie when he was younger. I think he's in his early 20s right now. I'm going to say 22 to 23, and it's a guess here. And this particular friend introduced this movie to him. So this is probably 10 plus years ago, maybe. And it scared the living hell out of him. It scared him so much that during the middle of the night when he had to go pee, he didn't want to get up from where he was, and he peed his pants, because that's how scared he was of that.
Yeah.
So a little different because he's older than you, probably about 9 to 10 years, you know. So, you know, again, a different generation for him, you know, but yeah, it's
different personalities.
Yeah,
too,
I was about
because
to say, I think it-
personality
yeah.
that
like-
comes into play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it goes from person to person, because I might have a friend that watches it and it's like, oh my God, this was so scary.
Yeah.
And we're like the same age. So I think it really just boils down to personality also.
Could
Yeah.
be worldview
Mm-hmm.
that is learned. You know, you learn your initial worldview, you learn from your parents.
Yeah.
It's only when you get older, you start living your own life, that you start formulating your own
Yeah.
view of world, but you adopt your parents' worldview at first.
True.
And so a lot of this could be that person's
Yeah.
experiences as up to that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really quick, do you remember do you remember when Tiana was just a baby? Do you remember when we you probably don't remember this, do you? Of course, Shaylee, this is prior to you because, you know, your sister's a little bit older, but do you remember, I think you and I were at the mall, and I want to say we were at Sunrise Mall, and we were walking around, and Tiana was crying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we were joking, you and I, and we kept throwing out lines from The Exorcist. Do you remember this
Yes,
stuff?
I do.
Yes. Do you remember? This
Yeah.
comes back to you now.
Yeah, it is coming back
Yeah,
now.
I just thought something I'd share, something
Yeah.
I just thought of, you know, many, many years ago. How old's Tiana now? She's 17. So
Yeah.
that was 16 and a half or so years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought it was relevant to this,
Yeah.
for this podcast.
I had forgot that.
I remember
Yeah.
us doing that, and we got a good laugh at it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess that's it, man. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah. So what's the bottom line here? There's a thin line between good and evil.
Yeah. You know, you take from it what you will.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
if you're heavy into faith, you're going to interpret this movie in a far different way than somebody who's not heavy into faith is going to interpret this. And that is, in a nutshell, the making of a great movie when
Yes.
it can do both of those.
Yeah.
And it still really stands up for me. And just, look, I know it's 1973, and sure, you know, you see some of these people in the clothes from 1973, but to me, it's just this, I don't know, this movie just stands up, you know, and doesn't feel dated to me at all.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, a sign of a great movie.
I mean, it is what it is. You know,
yeah.
I mean, every movie suffers from that, right? Unless it's a period piece, you know, where
Yes,
they're intentionally
True.
setting it in 1920, although it was filmed in 2010.
Yeah.
You know, all movies suffer from that. I mean, 80s movies suffer from incredibly ridiculously loud colors and poofed up hair
Love it, though.
and shoulder pads in women's blazer.
I think that's
Love
nice,
it, too.
personally.
I love it, man. I love those fluorescent colors and the big Aquanet hair.
Yeah, and the huge belts.
The huge-
and the
yeah,
leg warmers, even
oh
though you're
my
not
God.
going to a dance class.
the leg warmers, the headbands,
Yeah.
all of those things, man. You and I are 80s guys, so I love it, man. And you know, like with any time frame, it always seems to come full circle. And I think we had a resurgence of the 80s, and I'm sure in a few other years we'll have another resurgence of the 80s.
I mean,
because
you see a movie, you know, that was supposed to be filmed in the 80s or taking place in the 80s, and
Yeah.
you see all those 80s cars.
yes, you do.
You know what I mean? I mean, you just can't get away from
I
it.
miss the 80s. Oh well, we can't go back in time.
I wish.
I like the 80s, but I also like the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, 2000s not so much, but early 90s. Like,
Well, that's because that's when you met me.
yeah, that's
I
it.
think that's when it all
That is
went
exact-
uphill for your dad.
I was totally getting ready to say that, Rick. I appreciate you.
It's okay. I knew where you were going with it. All right, man. Well, I guess that's it for us. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Shaylee, for joining us and sitting back and chatting with these two old men and sharing your thoughts. And
Yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed that.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, everyone out there who's listening, be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
That's much too vulgar display of power, Garrus.
Thanks again for listening. Make sure you tell everyone about our Ear for Fear podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Ear for Fear. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There you can keep up to date on news, events, and episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you come back and get an earful.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.